A mission statement. Go ahead.
Our mission: Helping Parents Heal is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents to become shining light parents by providing support and resources to aid in the healing process. We go a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and evidence for the afterlife in a non dogmatic way. Affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non religious background. Attendance today at this meeting is voluntary, and we are here for the benefit of learning from and sharing with other parents whose child has passed away. It is understood that our discussions are intended to be confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. However, these Zoom meetings are very healing to parents all over the world, and they are posted on YouTube so that affiliate members who are not in our time zone can also watch. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers to allow parents to be informed about many possible ways to heal, to connect with their children, and to learn about the afterlife. The views expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of Helping Parents Heal, and we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Marilyn, and thank you so much for being here.
We are so thrilled to have you here. And I'll just quickly read a shortened bio so that people know a little bit about you. Obviously, you've written an incredible book, which is called Love is Greater Than Pain. And we've talked about your book, and it's on our website as a recommended reading book. And I know that Iris was the first person to point that beautiful book out to us. Marilyn Kapp had her first experience communicating with those who passed when she was just 2 years old. She recalls watching her grandfather leave his body at the time of his physical death, hearing his promise that he would come back. True to his word, he appeared and communicated often throughout Marilyn's childhood. Marilyn assumed that all people shared this ability. It was a shock to learn that not everyone had this perception. With her mother's support, she continued to receive out-of-body communication, but learned to keep it to herself. While pursuing a Bachelor of Arts at Boston University, Marilyn was fortunate to study with Nobel Peace Prize laureate and acclaimed author Elie Wiesel. He became a friend and mentor. Marilyn went on to receive a Master of Arts from Emerson College in Boston while continuing her studies with Professor Wiesel. His encouragement helped her realize that pursuing and developing her ability as a medium would facilitate healing between those in physical body and those in spirit. His gentle counsel led Marilyn to a new comfort level with her gift. Marilyn has performed thousands of personal readings for individuals and families, conducting sessions in Hollywood, Newport Beach, and Carlsbad, California, as well as all over the United States and internationally by telephone. She has also written this healing, uplifting book that I explained about earlier, about her life and her career as an evidential medium called Love is Greater Than Pain. You can learn more about her at www.marilynkapp.com. I'll put that on the sidebar. And now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Marilyn Kapp.
Hey, thank you. It's so strange to have listened to things about yourself. It's very weird. I mean, I just thought it was very normal. It was, after years of trying to push it away, I can't imagine not living that way now. I can't imagine. And it's interesting because obviously we know why everybody is here. And yet connecting with everyone, all I can feel, and I'll get emotional, is this incredible joy. All these kids are hanging out. They were all really excited. They're all talking with each other, as well as wanting to come through and talk to you. And it was so funny because I'm getting ready to do this and I'm just hanging out in an old shirt. And I heard once again, you wore that last time, it's Winnie the Pooh. Two younger guys, boys, we want you to wear the Winnie the Pooh again. I wore that last time. Well, you have another one. Go get another Winnie the Pooh. Apparently, there are a couple of kids that love Winnie the Pooh. So it's on here. I don't know if you can see it, but that was while I was getting ready to do this. They were joyful and they were talking, and there are a couple of people out there dancing, and they're just so excited to get through. And it's interesting. There's so many ways to put it, but we're all lamplighters. This light comes through us and we go around just lighting it up for everybody because they're here. And, in the book, the first part of the book is dealing with the physical aspect, dealing with the grief, dealing with the pain. And somebody asked me if it's depressing, channeling, and it isn't. It's the opposite. It's the most joyful thing I can even imagine. Kids know how to make their parents laugh. They know how to bring it home, so to speak. If I cry, it's on my own time because we're in the physical body. And, when they hang up the phone and leave the office, their child is not with them in body, but they still leave talking to them. And it's learning. It's having things not be the way you want them to be. Obviously, everybody knows that. But there is something else that we can have. And it isn't just, one kid just said, tell them it's not a booby prize. Tell them it's not, it isn't, but it's something that a lot of people don't think about unless they have the intense need. And I can't think of a more intense need than a child, because what we're doing, and they're directing what I say. I have, basically I meditate for a minute and a half and I ask divine consciousness to direct me the right way, because I don't know. So it's a collective consciousness, and they're asking me to do the little bit of protection just around all of us. But they're also talking about how happy they are to be doing this, how joyful they are to be coming through. And so it isn't what anyone would choose. It isn't, but there's such an opportunity for continued growth. There's just such an opportunity. And so many people I've met who are open to this communication, their lives shift. Once it's integrated, some people are integrated before the need. Most people, it's the need that opens up that whole journey. And once it's integrated, the way our lives change, they're absolutely amazing. In the book, there's a story about a young man named Alan. And his mom, I talk about it in the book, but this is just how people's lives change. After taking care of him through his illness and transition, she took time, and then she went back to her corporate career. She couldn't do it. So she talked to Alan and just listened to him. We channeled, but she was able to download. I really have to ask here. They're saying, a few kids are saying, Mom, when you're driving, when you're distracted, I find it, I'm one of those weird people that likes ironing. When you're doing one of those things that's repetitive, it's so easy for them to download because our mind isn't getting in the way. So they wanted to put that in as an aside. So it's interesting what happened for her in the several years since Ellen went out of body. She went back to school, got a second master's degree. She was a business lady, and she learned how to be a social worker, and she works with people in hospice who are transitioning so that she can bring that message. She can bring that message. And she feels that she consults with him about patients in the morning and at night. He collaborates with her. She knows she's never walking in alone. She's never going in alone because she's been through this experience. They wouldn't let her do it until some time passed after, she needed time to heal. But once that door opens up, it's so exciting to know about this group, because once that door opens, you just want to help open it for everybody because it is that exciting. So the mantra I was going to say, and I really recommend, I love the mission statement where you say, take what works, leave the rest. I agree with that 100%. I'm going to share the mantra I use, just that everything be for healing purposes and all that good stuff, but change it up so that it feels right for you. Different words mean different things to different people, and yet it's all one beautiful divine consciousness, regardless of what the languaging is. So what I usually say is we clothe ourselves in a robe of light, composed of the love, the power, and the wisdom of divine consciousness. We wear it not only for our own protection, but also so that those who see it or come in contact with it can be drawn to God and healed. they've channeled in over time that it's protection and intention. The first part is setting your protection. The second part is setting the intention that everything be for healing purposes. That doesn't mean that you don't deal with difficult issues. Kids will sometimes come in crying, they're so frustrated because they want to get across something that they feel their parent doesn't know. It doesn't mean it's always that easy, but it's in light, and it's always, they don't allow you to lie from out there. The buoyancy, the expansiveness is always there. They want me to remind you also that some people are taught, and I've heard from different people, and I even thought this when I was a kid, once I found out that other people weren't doing the same thing, that maybe it's not okay. And I'm just listening at the same time. What I've heard from so many people, especially kids, is that heaven wouldn't be heaven if they weren't allowed to be with their families. They're not separated from us. They're sitting in the house, they're watching TV with you, they're, getting the dog to bark to get the attention that you'll know they're there. They're finding all kinds of ways to let you know they're there, and they're not going against what's the best thing for their growth. Their growth is to learn how to acclimate, expand, but they still need, like we do, they still need to know that that love is there. And obviously the love is there. There wouldn't be so much pain without the love. So what's happening is, it's like we're feeding each other. They really need for us to be able to tune in, whether you're hearing them or not, whether you can discern it in words, or whether it's just this, oh, okay, whether you see a butterfly, whether something comes in, whatever it is. And kids are saying, for the most part, they understand their parents might not even be cognizant that they're doing it, but they know the parent is comforted. They know it, they can feel it. Notice, just for people who are listening, what's happening in your gut. Your vibration starts to go up. When you have a meeting like this, it raises the vibration. What does that mean, the vibration? We all vibrate at a certain frequency. People who are out of body, kids out of body, they vibrate at a higher frequency. It's just their natural state. They're not in the physical body, so that's not, the density isn't there. So what will happen is, like I said, I'll meditate a little bit, raise my vibration. Having this meeting, having this intention, every single one participating, your vibration is going up. Your kid is with you, pulling up that vibration. They literally lower theirs, which is healthy and fine, to meet us in the middle, and so that we can maintain it for a while. One thing you have to know, whether or not you're feeling them around you, is they get every word that you put out. What's come in repeatedly, if we offer a prayer or hope for somebody, and if we want to go to somebody higher up, it goes directly there. But our loved ones out there, they'll feel it like a warm flame coming past, like a little blanket or a hug, but they don't get content because we're not directing it to them. If you direct it to your child or somebody else that you love out there, they get full content. You can do it in your mind, you can do it out loud, however you do it. Let's face it, all of that communication is telepathic, whether it's out loud or not. We'll get to channeling. I know they're really chomping at the bit to channeling, but they're also saying they want to introduce a concept, and if it feels right, they're saying that for the most part, they choose who they come into. There's a level of consciousness where people are remembering where they were before coming in. That's where people go after. Very often, when I'm channeling for somebody, they'll talk about, oh, your other child is going to have a child coming in, or you're going to have a child. It isn't that, and oh, how do you know the future? It isn't knowing the future. It's seeing the entity out there. Entities who are looking to come in are in that same vibrational state as the people we love out there. So when I'm hanging out and channeling a grandparent for someone and they're rocking a baby with another one hanging over their shoulder, you can bet everybody has free will. They can decide whether or not they're going to have children. But to my experience, those kids are coming in because they've already aligned and they've already done that. If the deal is made before we come into body, then the deal sustains throughout our lifetime, and the deal continues after they go out of body, we go out of body, whoever goes out first. We have soul families. We're all connected. And so if we were together before coming in, there's no trouble finding each other after. And it's really a blessing to enhance the physical life here, not distract us from our physical life. You know, I remember when I was really young and talking to Elie Wiesel about it, he said it really is more about, you know, in the old days, in biblical times, people locking themselves up maybe, you know, and not seeing in-body people, not seeing, and, you know, well, we need a time to grieve. There's a reason why most religions and most backgrounds have a year so that we can find our footing, because literally the rug is pulled out. People don't realize the extent to literally feeling dizzy and not, you know, the world's turning, but it feels like people are falling off when people are grieving. That's needed. And for people who have had a more recent situation, you have to understand that that grief is going to lower the vibration no matter how hard you try. So they're directing me to say, don't try quite so hard, just allow. My mom just said that, you know, I could channel when my mom passed 11 years ago, I could channel for other people. I could do it. I couldn't channel her. I could feel her, but my grief was so deep, I couldn't channel her. So we have to be really careful not to blame ourselves and to understand that our kids are learning a new language. We're re-remembering, we're all re-remembering that language. And something that really helped me was not pretty recently, I came to understand that English is not my first language, that energy is. And I recall just sitting as a little kid, watching the energy, watching the people, watching everything go on. All of us have that. All of us do. And that was our world. And then for a lot of us, we were distracted and pulled in different directions, and it's colorful and wonderful, but that's still part of our reality. And these kids want to remind us of that, that these are our own moving parts. There's something we came in with, but the deals were made. Our kids are our kids, whether they're in body or out of body, and they find it very, is it a little too dark here? Let me move the light. But they find it just so important to let you know that this is a forever deal. Oh, a couple of kids just said, yeah, mom, for better or worse. And they mean it as a joke. But the other thing is finding out the hows and the whys in some of the situations. Those mysteries are available to us because they're available to us. If it's not coming in immediately, then it's they're learning how, we're learning how, but all of that is available. But the one thing they want to guarantee is that the bond is not broken. It can't be broken. The vibration of where we are, we're spiritual beings inside a physical body, inside or out. Those kids are our they're our soul family, and they're not going anywhere. And I better drink water before I. So how should we go about it? Do people have questions? Should I just keep talking about the concepts that kids want to have come through today? Or should we go right into channeling?
Well, I can ask if anyone has any specific questions, but I think that probably, as always, people are really excited about the channeling. And I just want to remind everyone that if someone gets a message, the message often contains a lot of information for you as well. So these kids like to piggyback. They try to get as much information to each of the parents as possible. And just please pay attention to what they're saying, because so many times 5 or 6 parents will be getting these wonderful messages and understanding that it's also for them. So with that said, oh, go ahead.
Quick question. I'm having trouble breathing, and there's a young man. I don't know if we should let people ask questions first. That seemed to be the logical thing, but I'm getting, there's a whole bunch of, they're not little kids, kids who are pushing a young man forward to let him come through. He's reluctant and he's scared, and he went from, he had a hand in taking himself out, and it was by his throat. Does that resonate with someone? Because this kid is coming through big time and really wants to get to people. And after that, I think, you know, we can just see what happens and then see as questions come up. I have a feeling the questions will correlate with the kids who are lining up. But is there somebody that resonates with? And it
Yes.
feels like it wasn't that long ago.
Let's see. We have 2 people, Marnie and Darcy. We have Marnie saying it's her son, Darcy as well. Is this just recently for both of you? Sarah Mitnick is also saying, and Natasha is saying it could be her son. Maybe if you could give a little bit more clarification.
Okay, I have to tell you, there's like 3 or 4 people. This isn't surprising. There were 3 or 4 people. This one, it feels as if this kid, this young man, I have a feeling they're all like really smart, but this guy is almost like supercomputer brain. Had a great opportunity coming up, was kind of fearful, had been struggling with depression going back and forth, was tampering with self-medicating, not knowing really what to do with that, and was not in their right mind, and is so apologetic because even though they just wanted the pain to stop, it was not really on the agenda that day to do that. Does that resonate with somebody?
So this should be a son who might have completed suicide. It sounds to me
Oh, and
like
definitely by throat. It feels
by
like, yeah.
throat. Okay, and so this would be someone at that point who is having trouble breathing. Super smart, someone who's really computer savvy.
And
Um,
me.
and let's see, and Susan is saying he was a computer tech person. So Susan, is this by suicide? Is it something, let's see, there's also asphyxia by OD. Would that be something that could actually, um, let's see, Susan's saying she's not sure what it is, but would it have to be,
There was absolutely no indication that he was going to do this, and he
okay,
didn't say goodbye.
and he didn't say goodbye. Okay,
No. No,
so
because he didn't plan on it. He didn't plan on it. And he can't believe he did this. And he was standing outside himself going, you know, the old line, by God, what have I done? But just really wants to reassure that he's okay. He's a really good-hearted, kind guy. And it feels as if this is something that nobody saw coming. You
okay,
know,
so
and I got depression, but nobody saw this coming.
Missy Farrell is saying, my son hanged himself, just accepted to sit for professional engineer
This
exam.
is the guy I got hanging. I didn't want to say the word.
Okay, so maybe we should just have Missy unmute if that's okay. And then, we can, I think that it's going to be piggybacking whatever you say on a lot of other people. But Irene, could you help me with that to find Missy and help me unmute her so that we can make sure to get her unmuted as quickly as possible?
And then I think it might be easier to have people ask questions because I have a feeling they'll correlate with how kids are lining up. But this one, it came in so strongly that I thought I was choking. And he just desperately wants to get through. And it's the person you're talking about.
Okay,
I think she's unmuted. I asked
Okay.
her to unmute. Okay, there she is.
Missy, can you put your screen on by any chance, your video?
Sure.
That would be so wonderful if you can. And then if you could talk again so that I can quickly just make sure that I pin your,
Okay.
so, oh, there we go. So just, let's see, I'm just trying, my screen has gone big and I'm going to make it a little smaller, exit full screen, because when it's a big screen, I can't do what I want to do. So Missy's on here, Marilyn, which is wonderful. And do you need to see her face or
Oh,
can
I
you?
can see her. She's right in the corner of my screen. He's a handsome guy, yes?
Yes.
I mean, like crazy handsome. He wants me to make a point of saying that. He's got an incredible sense of humor. It looks like great posture. It feels like he's figured everything out. It feels as if he's on this amazing track and everything is making sense. And this was just shocking, correct?
Absolutely.
Nobody saw this coming. It feels like there might have been a little dabbling with self-medication, but it doesn't feel like there was so much in his body that he was out of his mind. That doesn't feel like it's the case.
We've learned that he was drinking.
Yeah,
He had quite a bit of alcohol in his body, nothing else.
and that had been going on as the stress. He's a bit of an overachiever and was his entire life, correct?
Yes.
And he really was, he's saying you never put it on him that he had to be anything more than what he was. He was self-driven, yes?
Yeah.
And it made him happy. He loved whatever industry, whatever he's doing, it feels like he loves it. And things were lining up perfectly for him. And it just seems like the timing is utterly, his words, utterly insane. A, that he would do such a thing, and B, the timing of it, because it really
Absolutely.
looks like, and he's a very responsible guy, isn't he?
Our rock.
He's the one who carried it. He says that it looks so, he's laughing. He says it's permanent, it's ridiculous. It obviously looks like I gave it some thought because of how. And yet I didn't wake up in the morning thinking about it. It's almost like there was a piece of my brain that I didn't even know was in there. And it was like the personality you knew stood outside my body going, what the hell happened here? And it just was so, he wants you to know that this would happen with him sometimes, that sometimes it was not an isolated incident, that he would go to some part in his brain. Did you know that sometimes, we're not talking about blackout or anything like that, but it feels like sometimes he would just like space out, not blackout, but space out and just be somewhere else and not know what's going on. He says the brain is really mysterious, and there are pockets inside me that I didn't really understand. And I take responsibility because nobody else did it to me. I did it, but I really was not in my right mind. I don't know. I never, ever, ever would have done this to hurt anybody. There's a female, younger, his age, he's very concerned about, yes?
His sister?
Yeah, that is, yeah. And she is, because I don't know how close, but close enough that she would have picked up if there was something so blatant. Nobody picked it up, did they? He says he didn't pick it up himself. Please don't be angry at yourself for what you didn't perceive, because there's a piece of me, I didn't perceive it myself. And he's just been going, I mean, he's so efficient, and he's an amazing communicator, it feels. He knows how to, it feels like he's technically incredible, but trying to get through, he's been so, he doesn't want to say angry. He's getting help with that out there, but he's so bewildered and puzzled by the entire thing. It was not something he expected. He was looking forward to his future in the physical. And there's a piece of him that was just so disconnected. It wasn't what his heart and soul was desiring to leave at that time. He takes responsibility to say, yes, he did this, but not in his full conscious mind. And he loves you so much, and he's apologizing, but he just needs you to understand it was not, oh, this is really interesting. It was not premeditated, except for when I'd be in that part of my mind that would visit that place, and then I wouldn't remember it afterwards. He'd have like a couple of times where he would just kind of space out and not know what was really going on. It's puzzling because the guy's a brilliant guy and he's a happy guy. And he hasn't quite figured it out there, yet, but he's working on not being angry at himself and understanding that it was some kind of displacement or some kind of gap. It was not what he wanted. He's saying, what does that mean soul-wise? I'm trying to figure that out. But I realize that what I want to say to you is that I don't want you to feel punished because I'm out of body. You did nothing wrong. And he's crying, if you can agree with me on that, I will continue to really work on myself to not get mad at myself and hate myself for having done this, because I don't identify with it, and yet here I am. Is this making sense?
It definitely is.
He's so sweet, and he feels so efficient and practical. It doesn't match up.
He's
And
an engineer. He wanted to be an engineer since he was a little boy, and he was almost there, weeks away, and he was so happy.
yes, he was deliriously happy. And yet there was a piece of himself that he's laughing about it, that I hadn't been properly introduced to yet. I wasn't conscious of, and yet it would visit me and I couldn't figure it out. And sometimes I had this weird haunted feeling. I don't know what it is, but for the most part, when he's with people, he's present, he's happy and dynamic. He's dynamic. So what's going on out there, all of these friends he's made from The people who, when we gather in a group, all these kids are together. And some are adults, some are younger, but they're together because they're all hanging out together, helping each other. I swear a whole bunch of guys pushed him forward. They just pushed him forward. And that's why I couldn't breathe, because he had to get through, and he felt that he didn't deserve it, the opportunity. He said he felt he didn't deserve the opportunity to be the one who comes through first because he did something that he feels is so awful. And they had to, the way they got him to agree to talk was that when they said to him, you don't deserve to be in pain, he couldn't get it through. And when they said, you don't deserve to be in pain, that's when he said, okay, let's do this. And he wanted to come through. You didn't do anything wrong. Even I don't understand, he's saying, how I did anything wrong. But right now I'm out here. Look at it like I had a head attack the way that some people have a heart attack. If my gallbladder burst and I went out that way, the brain is an organ. There was a piece of it that I didn't understand, and that sure as hell didn't understand me. I know you love me anyway. Help me to love myself anyway, because I can't be, he doesn't stay mad long, does he? He doesn't like being mad. He just doesn't, and he can't carry it anymore. So together we're healing and we're doing this, right? He says together we're doing it, but you need to know the truth. It wasn't his purpose. It wasn't a plan. He had his life all figured out and he was delighted with it. It was a physiological aspect. And if you know that, he just sunk down. I can feel him sinking down into the arms of others who pushed him forward, and he's thanking them because he didn't know if he had the strength to do it. And this is a guy who had the strength to do anything on the physical plane. He wasn't afraid. This guy is not afraid to talk and to be present and to tell you what he thinks. What you see is what you get with this guy. And he feels magnificent, but he's just so relieved. He needed to get through. He was feeling guilty, but he wasn't sure how he should feel guilty, because he knew in his heart, he says, I knew in my heart, my mind, that I didn't plan on this, and I'm so sorry. And boy, does he love you.
And boy, do we miss him.
He says, I'm with you. He brought a bird recently. It came out from the left. Did you notice that? I don't know what climate you're in or what kind of birds you get, but he's been really trying. But the thing is also, he's been trying to work through his own anger, because he's a little bit miffy, saying that he didn't get to do what he had planned. He worked really hard to get to where he was. On the other
I've
hand,
done that too.
he says he worked really hard to get to where he is, but he has to just tell you with a little side eye and wink, things came easily to him. His brilliance, he would work hard, but that stuff came easily to him, didn't it? He didn't have to try too hard to do what he does very well. It was just, he was wired that way.
He was very smart.
Oh, incredibly, incredibly. And he says, and handsome, which is how we started. He's like, he's making it light. He's joking around. He's almost trying to deflect the pain. But as long as you know it wasn't purposeful and he wasn't mad at anybody, then he can release being mad at himself, as long as you know that.
Thank you, Nathaniel. And thank you, Marilyn.
Sure. Oh, something nice is coming up for his sister. Yes. Is there a plan or something coming up? Maybe it had to be postponed because of COVID, but something delightful is going on for her. Yes.
I don't know.
Oh, watch for something really, he's using the word grand. A lot of, he says one thing he can do out there is help people here with their dreams. So he's aligned with that. Don't be surprised when something nice comes in.
Thank you so much.
Yay.
We
Now,
have so many people who feel that they were piggybacking on Nathaniel, and I think that there are a lot of kids who are very similar, very, very smart, very driven, and who might have passed by hanging. I wanted to ask you something. Allison is asking, are children who pass by suicide from mental illness, do you think it is in their soul plan? Is it something that you might be able to, and I know that you were telling us that he was expressing some regret. A lot of people are saying that they feel that they didn't understand that there are any feelings of regret, any feelings of sadness once they go over there. Maybe you could go into that as well, or that they don't have any negative feelings.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And is it too dark? It got dark outside and let me just put the light on. Be right back.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
I didn't realize how much daylight. I'm in California, so it was daytime when we started.
Yes, yes. Well, yeah, it was an hour
Um,
earlier. Go ahead.
then what's come in and what they want to share is that they are immediately enveloped with love, that there are people out there to greet them. And yet at the same time, sometimes when it's trauma, when there's a lot of emotion involved, sometimes when it has to do with the fallibility of the mental state or the physiological part of the brain, they might not even realize that they're out of body. And that happens more often than you might think. I mean, not that what I've learned through channeling is that by far, most people that look like suicides were not intentional. Even sometimes somebody who writes or scribbles a note right before, they're not in their right mind, even while they're doing that. And one thing I've learned is, again, they're not allowed to lie from out there. There are all these light beings. You can, whatever words you want to use, angels, guides, there's so much light and they want truth to come through. But sometimes if there's trauma, let's say, a kid has been drinking and then they're in an accident and they're not aware, it's soothing to know that they didn't have physical pain. Very often the soul goes out before the trauma. That happens quite a bit. And I've asked these kids, are you saying that just so your parents won't be in pain? And it's like, no, we really literally didn't know what hit us. And the next event is that, let's say somebody is in a car and that happens. The next event is they're standing next to their body, looking at it and going, well, I don't think I can get back in there. And then they turn and they see grandma, somebody they love that they know who's passed. And it's like, I can't tell you how many times it's literally come in where it's, oh, expletive, I know what happened here. So they can be really shocked and surprised. Sometimes that same shock and surprise happens with the ones that look like or are literally, if you want to look at it that way, suicides, but the consciousness was not contributing to it. Something was, but they weren't directing the action with the part of their mind that's logical and where they're the personality we know and love, it might not be that part at all. So what happens is, and again, I'm in the process of learning too. I'm learning from what comes in, and they're literally telling me what they want to have come through. A different group, it's going to be a different set of sentences, a different bunch of things from different kids. So we're talking about each subject, but these kids are coming through with messages for their families very specifically. So sometimes somebody could not be in their right mind and have absolutely no recollection of how they took themselves out. If they have a toxin in them, obviously they don't take the toxin with them outside of the physical body. That's part of the physicality. If there's alcohol or drugs, that doesn't literally go, but the befuddlement, the confusion that caused, somebody can go out of body and still be in that frame of mind of being confused. And yes, they're in light, and yes, all the answers are there, and yes, it's home in that way, but they can still feel very confused. And I wouldn't say frightened. They're enveloped and they're loved. I really want to, they're all saying they're okay. You want to know when they're okay? And the younger ones are really chiming in and they're really emotional about it. They're okay when they understand that they can turn and look at you and they didn't lose you. See, you're not lost to them. They don't like the idea. They hate the wording, oh, I lost my, they're not lost. They're with you. They're just not in the physical, so you can't see them the same way. So we are not lost to them. So they immediately, even if they're angsty and upset and didn't plan on going out when they did, and they look at their plans and, oh, I wanted to do this, this, and this, are they disappointed? Very often they are, because they take that mental state with them of what they had planned, and they don't want to disappoint themselves or us. However, the help is out there right away. And what I have found, it isn't that if we don't do things right, they're not going to be okay. But when we contribute our knowingness, our heart to their agenda of letting us know, that gives them incredible comfort. They, especially if they left by suicide, because this young man that we just, Missy's son, somebody next to him just said, oh, sure, now you want to talk, before it was, they had to push him forward. But he's saying the frustration of the people you love the most thinking that you were thinking a horrible thing or that they had a failing. He said the first thing for him is he went out of body and he was like, oh my God, I failed. For a lot of parents in this kind of circumstance, their first thought, he's saying this, I'm not, he's saying, is that they failed. And that does seem to be a universal thing I found in channeling. And he says, so his healing goes hand in hand with his family. If he releases the anger towards himself for whatever reason it was, would this have happened for me, whether or not there was alcohol in me? Is this more a mental state? There was, what was it that was broken? For me to heal, I needed to be hand in hand with my parents. And he says, everyone has a life review and he's watching and he's figuring it out and he's angsty and upset because he didn't want it to go this way. And yet the impetus for him and for a lot of people out there is they will do their work and figure it out and let go of their anger towards themselves or whatever it is that they've carried with them. Even though the toxin doesn't come with them, sometimes those thoughts do. And when they're really unwilling to have compassion for themselves because they are upset, they are immediately shown the access they have to their families and that they're allowed to help them. Missy's son is saying if it weren't for her, he'd be sitting with his head in his hands, but he feels he has someone he has to answer to, and that's saving him. Because by answering to her, he can take responsibility and say, you know what, this just talking today, and it's like now we're getting his real personality because he's like not holding back. It really is helping me understand that it wasn't my intention. Something was broken. And again, if somebody has appendicitis, you're not going to get mad at yourself if you go out and just say, oh crap, we didn't want it to go that way, his words. But you're not going to, he says, I don't want to disregard my soul because I had a moment where the brain misfired and I disregarded the physical body. So when something like that happens, the soul that's out there feels that there was something in them that must have hated themselves. Once in a while, maybe that happens. And usually the backdrop of that is mental illness. But for somebody like this guy, there's a piece of the brain that he wasn't connected to and didn't understand exactly what was happening. And that can happen. It doesn't happen to most people, but it's a form of mental illness. And he just said it's like a valve misfiring. It's like you can have a good heart and a valve goes kaplop and you're gone in terms of the physical body. His brain could function so very well with what he applied it to, and yet there was a mystery to him. He really feels that his impetus, he was actually pushed to come because he at first didn't realize what the key was. And the key is to love other people. And so that way you can come back to self-love. My mom knows. She already knew. She's been racking her brain, but she knew. I'm not hateful. I'm not angry. I'm really not angry. And I really loved my life. When things happen like that, then you know that there's something going on. So to come back to the original question, which I didn't remember until he just reminded me, sometimes is there something inevitable? It could be the same way that, you hear every once in a while, a kid's out there and they have a blood clot and something just goes kablooey. There's something sometimes just, he's funny the way he put it. He said sometimes in the management, in the physical, there's something that nobody knows. And so you can equate it to that kind of idea. Is it something we all need to think about all the time and think, oh no, is there something we don't know that's coming up? We don't want to live that way. But if it does happen, he said he's already feeling more relaxed just explaining it. He says, you have to understand this is just a continuation of our life and the people we love. And he says it's really smart to wait until, he's laughing. He has a hot tip. It's really smart to wait until you're really old to go out because then you have more of a party waiting for you. If you're younger, your party is mostly on the physical plane. You can have people who love you out there that you know, that have already passed, but your focus is going to be on the physical plane. And I was directed and allowed to do that, to mingle and have fun on and play with the physical plane so that I could get strong enough to let people know. And that communication makes my growth out here easier. It just does. And all I want to know is that my mom and everybody else isn't suffering. You know, they're going to miss me that way. But if they know they have me and that I didn't do it on purpose and that I wasn't angry, that will help all of us. And then when we hug each other again, it'll be like no time went by, even though it feels horrible now. It's like no time. Yes, he wants me to tell you that. He just looked at me and said, "You're old." I've been doing this a long time. And sometimes the people I channel for, I then channel, you know, and it happens. Usually the generations go in the order, but sometimes not. And I always hear when people are reunited, if I've channeled one and then the next one goes out to meet them, that when they hug, when they embrace, it's like, you know, they remember all the heartache, the years or whatever it was. But it's like no time went by and they immediately feel this wave of being so loved, so enveloped in that love, and being congratulated for putting one foot forward and maintaining their balance on the physical plane. And then he's saying, and when you can shine it on other people and light other people's hearts with this knowledge, it's quite a celebration out there. So he says now that he's talking, he would keep going so we can go to other people because he will keep going.
Okay, well, that's wonderful. I wanted to just ask, there's some people asking if there are people who are meeting our kids as soon as they transition, and if they are taking them under their wing immediately. And then I think this is a different question, but maybe you could also answer this. Candy's asking question, if it wasn't suicide, wouldn't it be something else? Is it, if it is their time, or is the cause of death predetermined? Is there, do you have any thoughts on that?
I have thoughts, but I want to listen to these kids. What I'm hearing in this kind of group speak is there's something in our gut and something in our responsibility about what we want to accomplish here. Sometimes those things are accomplished. Sometimes it's to raise the bar for everybody, that they face the challenge of communicating with us and they teach us so that we can raise the bar for other people. The answer, they're saying usually people have an opportunity to go out several times in their lifetime if they want to take that. And very often people will say no. And that conversation is usually not conscious. And then for others, it feels inevitable. They only came in to do what they came in to do. So it really depends on the individual. But it is really an important thought, because those concepts, they make perfect sense. In terms of, you know, there are people who will, you know, miss things narrowly. Sometimes there'll be an explosion. It's the person next to them and not them. When we channel, the person who's out of body will say, well, you were supposed to do this and that time isn't for you yet. So there is something to that. I have to say, yes, there's something to that. There was another part of the question you asked that they're jumping through hoops trying to get to. What was the other part?
The first part was asking about if they're greeted by a group.
Oh, okay, thank you. I've had the pleasure of channeling for, there's one woman who I channeled for while she was going through a cancer experience. She's been out of body probably about 15 years. And she was an educator here. She was worked with very young children. And she basically decided and went right into helping. She was ill for a very long time. She understood the concept of everyone begging her to stay. She's coming into, rather than my memory, because I don't remember things, she's saying she wanted to take all the years of thinking that she was going tomorrow, and then lasted another month and another month, and then there was another treatment, and she lasted a while. But that, watching people's expectation, and, you know, I've been through cancer, and you look at people's eyes, and I was told I wouldn't be here, and you feel like you're causing so many people suffering, you know, and you want to help them. So what she decided she could do in her experience is that once she went out of body, she wanted to focus on children. That's her forte, and be an educator. So she showed me that there were out of body, once she was out of body, she channeled in that there are, she says, you know, groups, huge numbers of people out there who, based on what they went from, like this young man, Alan, who's helping his mom work with people in hospice who know they are going and want a more conscious experience. So she's helping people, kids, understand, and this is really important, that the children are not mad at themselves that they disappointed parents. Very often her experience was a cancer experience. We tapped into, and it's so amazing. So many children I've channeled feel like they let their parents down because you can do it, you can get through it. Well, yeah, we have to rah-rah. That's what we need to do. We're doing our job. But then the tables turn. And then as a parent, you wonder, did I do the right thing by holding them here? I meant well. These kids know you meant well, but when they go out with that confusion, that immediate, oh boy, so-and-so's going to be mad at me. This lady and a whole bunch of other people are out there to gently hug them, hold them. They're infused with love. But here's the thing. They have their own relatives out there, but for a lot of kids, these kids are so young that they might not recognize a grandparent. They would, you know, all of us out of body, we're with our families that are still out of body, that haven't come in yet, that are already out. Soul families, there are always some of us in body and some out. So we might go out and recognize them. But for these kids who are attached to the physical plane and they don't know somebody on the physical plane who's there to meet them, these teachers and these guides, they just gently hold them, hug them, turn them around and say, look. And you see the parent, and then they tell them in whatever form the child needs, you didn't do anything wrong. You were very, very strong. You tried to stay here. They basically go over exactly what was the child's need to stay, to try and be good, to stay. Your parent is heartbroken. They're crying because they love you, because they want you, not because they're angry at you. And that comes through once in a while. And then we say, oh my God, what can we do? We beg them to stay. All you have to do is just right now, this minute, say, you know what? It's because I love you. Nobody was mad at you. But to be honest, we might not come to that right away. So there are people out there who become guides, who help people to understand that. And so these kids can rest and lean back and just take a breath. The breath is different, but it's an energetic breath. And it's just lean back. You know, something that keeps coming in while we're in body is that our breath is like mouth-to-mouth resuscitation with divine consciousness. They have an energetic breath and they're connected. They hug us and we feel a wave. I mean, I can't see everybody who's here, but I would venture to say that with somebody you love so intensely who's out of body and with you, I would think most people have felt that wave or that connection. And the kids want me to remind you that if you are the rare person who goes, no, I haven't, then the mind is not recalling it, because the heart, I'm getting from so many kids here that just about everyone in this group who's tuned in now has been reactive to them. So kids will come in and they'll hug you and you might not know why. You might just go, huh, or you might think of them, or something might come in and you don't know what triggered it. You think you're just having a moment. Oh, mom's having a spell, dad's having a, we're reacting to their hug, and it's more interactive than they're cracking up out there because it happens all the time. So even if you can't recall it in here, and one thing I've said to her, I wish we could do this for like 8 hours, just straight. One thing they're saying is not to get caught up in the mind. When we're in the body, we have the mind, the heart, and the gut. The gut knows, the gut remembers, the heart knows, the heart keeps loving, and your kids need that love. Oh boy, do they. The mind, because we're programmed a certain way in our society, says, oh, I don't know, if the mind is calculating the signs, if the mind is calculating the wave, the feeling, the vibration, it's you don't want that to be supervising, because in terms of vibration, if we're going to look at the balance of the mind, the heart, and the gut, the mind is the least available to that highest vibration. The heart and the gut, no. Don't let your mind talk you out of it. One thing I've learned, and I really wish I could channel for everyone, and I see we're running out of time, and this guy, Missy's son, is saying, I'm sorry, but we just felt it was the best way to reach as many people as we could, because this has been group speak with a whole lot of kids. don't worry so much about reacting. They're watching you react, even if you're not cognizant of it. There's no way of getting this wrong. You love them, they love you, they're bent on doing this. This is their work now. And when we get it and when we have full communication, it does free them up to do other things. But this is part of their growth too. Figuring out this, the bridge to us. And when we hold our arms out to be the receiving end of the bridge, don't let the mind fool you into thinking that you're not getting it. Your soul knows. And eventually the brain will be opening up and allowing. One other thing, usually after I channel for somebody, and I have a feeling this happens in your meetings, you feel lightheaded and kind of spacey. What will happen out there, they embrace us and pull us up to a high enough vibration so that your brain can't really get in the way and talk yourself out of it. You're just feeling too wavy. So if you have that come in, please allow it. It is all part of the process. God, we need more time. Can we do this like all the time? I really want to channel for everybody.
We can do this every month if you'd like to. Everyone's saying, please come back. 1 hour is too short.
It is too short.
And they're also saying how wonderful you are. I just want you to know that there's so much love for you. What an energetic energy Marilyn has. I have to go, but thank you for doing this.
It's these
Elizabeth,
kids. It's
yes.
not me. It's
So you're an amazing light for everyone. Thanks, Elizabeth. A great chance to learn this. And thank you, Marilyn, for this thought-provoking explanation, which is always wonderful. And I think that one last question that I just love for you to quickly address, if that's okay. I've had several people asking about whether their kids are with their dogs or their animals who have passed. Could you
yes,
maybe
absolutely.
just
Absolutely. Oh my God. First of all, animals, let's talk about very quickly the animals in the house. They see them, they hear them. If the dog looks like it's barking at nothing, they're barking. Kids will usually lure a dog away from the usual places like the door. You could think they need to go out to let you know they're there. So yes, but are they greeted by the animals that went before them that they love? Yes. And there's a whole army of them holding up animals to show us. When we channel, it's one of the very first things. Look who's here. The other thing is that animals will incarnate in our lifetime, but usually if they have a kid out there, they like to stay with the kid for a while. So yeah.
That's beautiful. And again, I have to say some of the things people are saying. Thank you, Marilyn. You're awesome as always.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marilyn. Thank you. Thank you. This was wonderful. Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you so much, Marilyn. Thank you so much, Marilyn. I can listen to Marilyn for hours. Thank you so much to think about, so much to think about, so uplifting. Please come back soon. Thank you, Marilyn. You are amazing. I love that all of our kids are together and helping
they
each other.
are. They are, and they give each other strength and they push each other forward and they help each other and they network. There's the networking out there is unbelievable. We have networking here. Your kids most likely brought you to this group. They
Yeah.
make the connections. It is unbelievable what they do. They're incredible. So we're working for them.
And I just have to say at the very beginning, Jesselyn says, OMG, Elizabeth, as soon as you mentioned channeling will start, my son's dog just started barking. So that was at the beginning. Gus is saying thank you. Teresa is saying thank you. Galen saying wonderful, heartening, uplifting presentation. Marilyn, thank you. And thank you, kids. Thank you so much and God bless. Thank you. This was heartwarming, inspirational. Thank you so much. Thank you. It was such a blessing. You're amazing and forever grateful. Muchas gracias from our Anna Molina.
Every kind word goes to your kids. They're the ones doing this. I'm just grateful to be allowed. I'll get emotional. I'm just grateful. But the power, the strength to come through, that's all these kids.
Well,
they're the ones doing it.
And Allison is saying, I love this group channeling. Thank you, Marilyn. Shelley, thank you, Marilyn. Love, love, love you, Marilyn from Iris. Thank you, Marilyn from Shireen, who is actually dialing in from South Africa. Suzanne, thank you so much. Brad is asking if this was recorded. He had the time zone wrong, and we did record this, Brad. So we'll be putting it up after this. Kimber's saying, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I just made a deal with a whole bunch of kids out there to come back until we get everybody. And considering that, not that we want more kids to be joining in, but you know that this is how it goes. You know, more people will hear and come in. So that means we have a commitment. Let's just do this forever.
So you'll come back next month, is that right? Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Please, can we continue? Because it's just, you know, I mean, I joke all the time that I'm, you know, I love to channel for people, but I'm working for them. And it isn't work, it's joy. It's, you know, and I'm really humbled and grateful. So thank you. Thank you for cheering your children.
People are saying, yay, thank you, love your passion, Marilyn, awesome. I mean, it just doesn't stop. So what I want to tell everyone too is that if you want to be able to learn more about Marilyn before the next time, please read her incredible book, Love is Greater Than Pain. It is just, Cindy's asking if we can do 2 hours next time. Maybe we could push it to an hour and a half if you're available for an hour and a half. I don't know if that's too exhausting.
Absolutely.
Is that okay with you? So why don't we try to do that next time for an hour and a half? And
that would be great, because then we could do more channeling, you know.
Okay, that would be wonderful.
You know, it's all channeling, but you know what I mean.
Well, and I'd love to send you the chat box once we get done with this. I will be uploading it
Thank you.
to YouTube, and then we'll put it on our own channel. But I will also make sure that you get the chat box so that you can see all of these beautiful things that people have been writing to you. And I, again, every time that you come on here, it just lifts my spirits so much. And thank you for doing that. And I want to tell everybody, just because it's such a touching thing. Before the meeting started, Marilyn said that she saw my son standing over my shoulder. I know he stands over my shoulder all the time. And I actually, in the very beginning, and I've told people this, I would go into stores and I'd just have this big smile on my face, like, who's going to tell me that Morgan's with me? And she sees him just the way that I think almost anybody who can see this enormous presence behind me, who's always with me. But I am not alone. All of our kids are standing right over our shoulders, and they are with us every step of the way. So I just feel so grateful that you're a part of our journey, and that they are as well. And even more importantly, they're together and we're together, and we're all a part of a big family. So thank you all for being here this evening. Irene, did you have something that you wanted to say as well?
No, I just wanted to say thank you so much. Beautiful.
And I really wish, oh, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, not at all. I unmuted everyone so they could say goodbye also.
Okay, because right next to you in my little square is John Manning, and there's somebody standing right to your right, clear as day.
Who is my son, or
is this a male?
Yes, this is. So John, is this a male?
Is this?
Yes. Who can you tell who it is?
Is this your son?
I hope so. I've been.
Yeah, he's male. Yeah, I'm saying, is he a male? Yeah, because I'm getting there's a young male right next to, he's not that young, but he's right next to you. And as soon as I acknowledged him, his auric field, you can just see him. He moved in closer to you. So he's on your right, and you could probably feel his vibration. But I just had to comment, if I could go around to each box, we could just kind of tune in. So when we have more time, let's play with that.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Yeah. So please talk to him. He's right there. And boy, does he love you. And he's got a sense of humor, this guy. So
thank you, Marilyn.
Yeah.
Well, and
beautiful.
So please understand that that John and myself are not the only people who have their kids standing right beside them. Every single one of us.
Every single one. And that's the thing. I just wish we could. So we will. We'll spend more time.
Well, and thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Muchas gracias, Marilyn.
See